Hey, thanks for coming up.
No problem. Thanks for meeting with me on short notice.
Come in. Sit down.
I met with my supervisor, and I don't know. I'm worried about this case I have.
Well, how can I be helpful?
I'm working with this mom, 2 kids, 10 and 1, and she's been a victim repeatedly. This is her 3rd investigation involving domestic violence.
Okay, who is the perpetrator in the case?
In this case, it's the father of the youngest. He's out of the home right now.
Have there been other perpetrators in other cases we've had?
Yeah, the father of the 10-year-old had a finding against him several years back. Then he made the 2nd referral against mom when she started dating again.
For being with someone else?
It looked like it. He claimed dirty house and that she was dating a sex offender and stuff, but none of that was verified.
Okay, so it's the 3rd case with this mom. Once because of the first father's violence, once because of the first father's control, and now because of the other father's violence. Got it.
Well, mom really needs to talk to you, I think.
Did you talk to her about that?
A little. She's willing to do whatever we ask. She had an advocate in the past, and I think that was helpful for her.
How so?
Well, she was seeing the advocate because of her first baby's father. He was really violent to her, hit her a lot and stuff.
Sounds like a real strength that she was able to get out of that relationship safely and work with an advocate.
I did tell her that.
That's great. How did she respond to you saying that?
She told me that it was very different talking to me than with the last worker.
There is no way to overstate how important it can be for moms who have been abused to have someone, especially DCF, validate her. And to be honest, it helps you too. I bet she gave you a lot more information because you did that.
She actually opened up quite a bit, and that's why I'm worried about her, and I want to get her back into services again.
Okay. Before we talk about what might make her and the kid's situation better, can I just ask you a few questions about this current guy and what you've learned about his pattern of course of control and actions he's taken to harm the children?
Well, this incident, she reported he attempted to strangle her. Her 10-year-old called the police and said he was worried that his stepdad was going to kill his mother. The boy confirmed this when Rachel talked to him. The stepdad seems to be really controlling of mom and has been violent with her before. Nothing as serious as this incident, pushing, slapping. She did get an injunction on him last year after he hit her and threatened to kill her, but then she let him back in.
You learned a lot about his patterns. Thanks for sharing that so concisely. Now, has he been violent with any other partners?
Not to my knowledge, based on my review of the criminal history, injunctions, and our records. I did a search for him in our system, and he doesn't show up in any other case. He did deflect me when I tried to ask about other relationships.
Well, it sounds like you've tried pretty hard to see whether he has patterns across relationships. Any violence towards the children?
No, everyone's pretty clear that he never strikes the children, even for discipline.
Any violence towards others outside the family? I want to make sure about our own safety working with him and his family.
No indicators that I can tell. Mom says that when she got the injunction, he didn't come by the house. But he did call her. She seems a little less certain how he's going to respond to this arrest.
What's your plan for him right now?
Recommending a batter intervention program, maybe a Chapter 39 injunction to order him not to have unsupervised contact with the children.
I bet that criminal order doesn't cover the kids. They almost never do, although they can.
It just covers mom.
Well, discussing a Chapter 39 injunction makes a lot of sense then.
My supervisor is pretty gung-ho about this case. He wants to hold him accountable.
Yeah, I've worked with your supervisor before. He really seems to get course of control and perpetrator patterns.
Yeah, we are expected to assess the perpetrator's pattern of control as part of their adult functioning and how then that pattern impacts the mother's functioning.
I've noticed that you have a lot of good beginning information, and you've been able to ask a lot of questions from the Safe and Together model about the perpetrator's patterns. That makes this go faster and lets me help you better. So, tell me, what changes you think mom needs to make and why?
Well, she's been in 2 different abusive relationships, and I think she needs help making better choices with men.
Okay, not sure what I can do about that. Did your supervisor like the idea of you coming to see me?
Yeah, I suggested it, and he thought it was a good idea.
So, what's your top priority here?
I want us to talk about working with mother around her safety and the safety of the children.
Do you mean safety planning for the children or safety planning with mom?
As you know, we will have to develop a safety plan for the children if we determine that they are unsafe as a result of father's violence. It seems that mom has a good personal safety plan for herself and the kids, and it would be good for you to go over that with her. That said, the father's violence is likely not going away. He has unsupervised visits with the baby, and he is likely to come back to the household. Jeffrey wanted you to come out with me when I go back and visit with the mother. And he also said you might be able to sit in on the meeting with the CLS attorney about this case.
I'd be happy to do that. So you're telling me that you are still in the process of assessing impending danger?
Uh-huh.
Actually, it sounds like Mom already has a connection at our agency, and she probably talked to one of our advocates if she went to court.
I don't know.
Okay. I'll be able to find that out and talk to the person at our agency. You know, I won't be able to tell you anything about that unless Mom signs one of our releases.
Yeah, I know, and it can't be ours. That's not good enough for your agency.
Has anyone ever explained the reasons behind our confidentiality to you?
No, but it's fine. You have to do what you have to do. I've dropped off women at your shelter or with one of your staff. Then she realized she left something in the car. I call over and someone on the phone says they can't tell me if she's there, but if she is, they will give her a message to call me. I almost never get a call back.
Domestic violence advocates have privileged communication with our clients. Like attorneys and doctors, our communication is confidential unless our client gives us a release to speak to you. This law was set up because the experiences with participants in our services made it clear that they needed at least one place where they could go to talk about their situation without fear that their abuser was going to find out, and that also they needed that safe place to discuss safety strategies, get support, and plan for their safety and the safety of their children. And as soon as they found out that we were confidential and only needed to report when their children were in danger, they talked more freely with us. And this lets her help her children better.
What about mandated reporting?
Well, we still do get training on that, and we are still mandated reporters by law.
Okay.
When we have a client who's involved with DCF, we talk to her about her case, try to educate to your processes, and then figure out with her how working with you can help her improve her situation. We also provide lots of services that help her directly and a lot that help her children indirectly.
What do you mean that your services help the children indirectly? I know you have groups for children at the shelter. This mom isn't at the shelter.
We do have groups at the shelter, but we also have outreach services, so a survivor doesn't have to be in the shelter to receive counseling or injunction services. And you said this mom worked with an advocate in the past, right?
Yes, when she was leaving her 10-year-old's dad. She's gotten a 911 phone for her son. I think she was in a support group. She said that the advocate was helpful when she needed to get child support order and custody filed. She said they provided her with legal support. She also told me she just would call up this advocate when she needed to vent about her ex. And also she did use services to help her get an injunction last year.
So she's been pretty busy. How did all that work Mom did with us help her children?
The older kid did stay in the shelter briefly.
So we may have helped that child avoid being homeless. And at least we provided the child with safe, stable housing for a brief period.
Yes, but I'm not sure what else you were talking about.
Well, let's talk about the custody order and support order we helped her get. How was that good for her son?
Well, I never thought about it that way, but I'm sure she was trying to set up safety for him with the orders and get help with his basic needs from his dad. He hasn't paid a lot, but she told me whatever he pays helps, and that the fear of her pursuing more money can sometimes back him off.
So we helped her keep her son away from his violent father.
Yes.
What else?
Not sure.
My experience is that those venting calls she's talking about often turn pretty practical with brainstorming about ideas about visitation and extended family. I know that when I've got calls like that, I've suggested ways for children to have safe contact with an abusive parent, like visits at grandparents' house.
She does that. Maybe her advocate suggested that to her. But anyway, this is helping me think about my assessment and how to describe Mom's strengths. To be honest, I just thought of those things as services for her, not what they did for her kids. Maybe when we meet with her, we can ask her a few questions about how those services helped her kids.
Sure. So it sounds like she's already done a lot to get her self-support. She sounds like she's taken very active steps to be protective of her children. What else have you learned about her protective efforts?
She accessed services, like I said. The last time was when she filed for an injunction last year.
Do you see that as a strength?
Sort of. She took him back after a while.
What does she say about why she took him back?
I didn't ask her.
Okay. Well, when you go back, and we can do this together, if I can go with you, it might help you assess his pattern and also her strengths if you spoke to her about her thinking related to taking him back. There's a story there that's going to be important to all of this.
Okay. I already have this list developed with my supervisor, so one more thing won't be a problem.
What else have you learned that she's doing, on a day-to-day to promote the children's safety and well-being?
The children are medically up to date, no appointments missed. There is a concern about delay in the motor skills of the youngest, but she seems to be on top of that. She communicates to the school about the oldest boy and his needs. She's good with the baby, at least when I saw her with her. What else do you want to know?
Is she the one in charge of the doctor's visits? Who feeds them and gets the boy off to school?
She does all of that. This dad is involved with some of the older boys' sports, but doesn't do anything around the house. He calls his daughter his little princess, but I don't get the sense he's ever even changed her diaper. Mom does it all.
So you are saying that she's managed to keep these kids on track despite his violence?
Yes.
Does that surprise you?
I never thought about her parenting in the context of his abuse. Yeah, it is impressive, and she doesn't get any real help from the boy's father.
So even though there are two fathers in the picture, she does all or most of the day-to-day care?
I'd say all.
And she's done this despite both their violent patterns?
Yes.
Okay. How do these dads get along?
They don't. The first one called us when she got together with the second one, and the second one has even gone over there to talk to the first one. I don't think it was just talking, though.
So she's navigating a situation where two violent fathers are choosing not to work together for the best interests of the children?
Well, when you say it like that, it makes them look worse.
Doesn't it? I really think dads matter to kids. That's part of my approach. Good dads can make all the difference in the world, and bad dads can be really harmful. I guess I just approach these situations like the dad is just as responsible for the children as the mothers are.
So this current guy seems much more focused on the other guy as the problem when Rachel interviewed him, and he showed limited insight into his own behavior. He did admit to pushing and shoving, but he downplayed the strangulation. He said he may have pushed her, grabbed her shirt collar. He also blamed her for taking sides with her ex. I can't imagine what the 10-year-old has heard him say about his father.
So what has he done to undermine her parenting?
He's interfered with her work. He doesn't let her work even though she has her CNA. He tells her she's nothing without him, even though she put herself through school on her own. He demands receipts for everything, and I think that makes her really anxious about buying things for the kids. She tells me that he takes the EBT card because he understands money better, but she doesn't really know what he spends it on. She's developed this strategy to spend as much as she can of the EBT card before he asks her for it. She waits to make her purchases and then gets her mom to take her shopping the day the card comes. That's how she's bought the kids lots of their clothes and toys. She also defends the 10-year-old's dad to him, trying to explain that his substance abuse is a disease and that he still loves him. Also, that just because she and his dad didn't work out doesn't mean he shouldn't get to see his family.
This mother seems to be really active with her kids, figuring out how to take care of them physically and emotionally. And you've done a really good job in a short amount of time learning about her strengths, parental functioning, and protective capacity. Can I ask you a couple of more questions about this?
Sure. Sometimes I think these consultations give me more work.
I know. But you did a great job describing Mom's strengths to me right now. Are all of those things written down in your documentation?
Some.
And did you share all of that with your supervisor?
Most of it.
Good. Now, does Mom know you think so highly of her?
No, I don't think I said all that.
So this is where I want to try to make your life easier. I want you to get the most value out of your hard work. And I want you to make sure that what you did helps the kids the best it can. So here are a few recommendations I have for you. Number 1, be sure to include these strengths when you develop your FFA. Make sure they're clear, like you've explained them to me. It's not just that the kids are medically on track, but they are on track despite the lack of support and assistance from both fathers. Those things are so important to document in the FFA. Tell it to your supervisor, and then also tell it to mom when you meet with her again. Remember, he's been telling her she doesn't know how to spend money, probably telling her in all sorts of ways she's a bad mom, and here you are, you have this outside perspective about how hard she's working for her kids, and you work for DCF. This might change how she sees herself, and it's likely to help her open up to you and for you and she to work together better.
Okay, this makes sense. Now that I'm thinking about it, all the times I didn't say anything like this or never wrote it down.
Yeah, I'm happy to help however I can. I can even look at the language or help you figure out what to say. So, now let's talk about services. What are you hoping she'll get out of the services this time?
I just want her to find a way to be independent, you know? This guy is a lot older than she is, and she's completely relying on him. He pays for everything. He's very controlling. I don't think she sees how bad this current guy is for the kids. If she could see how these guys are bad for her kids, I think it would really help her get away from them.
I'm curious why you think she doesn't see these guys as bad for her kids.
Well, I know she knows the 10-year-old's father is. I just think she's minimizing how bad this father is.
Minimizing how? Did she refuse to disclose any of the violence to you?
No, I mean, she was hesitant at first, but she wound up being pretty open.
So she did tell you about his violence. Did she tell you about any of his controlling behaviors?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, he's in charge of the finances. He asks for receipts and things. He doesn't want her working. He doesn't like the boy's father calling, stuff like that.
So, actually, she told you a lot. And it seems like she knows it's bad for her children.
Yeah.
So it sounds like she isn't so much minimizing as maybe not making a decision you'd like to see her make. Because minimizing to me really means pretending things are okay, or making the abuse not sound as bad as it is, even though there's a good reason to do those things.
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever you want to call it is okay. I just really am not sure she's fully getting it.
Actually, it is really important what we call it. If you go to CLS and say, this mom is minimizing, what will they say? Are they going to give you different legal advice if you say you have a mom who's protective and is struggling to figure out how to help keep her kids safe and meet her children's basic needs?
Probably.
Okay. Let's look at a few more areas before we figure out what needs to happen next. Did she talk at all about the kids watching dad's violence, if they have?
Well, this was the first time the older child saw anything. He knew stuff was going on. He can say that dad is mean and stuff, but he hadn't seen him be violent before.
How did that come about?
Well, Mom always made sure he and his sister were in their room or that they went to a neighbor.
That was Mom's plan?
Yeah.
Do we know why she came up with that plan?
I think she wanted to keep them from seeing it. The older kid, Charlie, he'd seen his father be violent and she didn't want him to keep seeing it.
So actually, it sounds like not only did she disclose a lot, but she is also really aware of how the kids could be impacted by dad's violence.
I guess.
So earlier, when you said you wanted her to see how bad these guys are, as a goal, sounds like she actually achieved that already. She knows they're both violent, and she knows their current partner is controlling, and she knows that it's bad for the kids. So that's actually really good news for us.
But aren't you worried that she's still with him?
Honestly, I'm more worried about his behaviors. Whether or not they're together, in my experience, doing good assessments starts with understanding the perpetrator's patterns of behavior. Not just in this relationship, but his patterns, of course, of control with partners, and as it involves the children directly or indirectly. So, if we're thinking about child safety and well-being in these cases, it's best not to get hung up on the relationship status or where someone is living. I have some workers who come in here and all they can talk about is how she needs to leave and end the relationship. And to be honest, To see that as the situation without information about this pattern and without partnering with the victim is just plain dangerous for the children. We can't pretend that leaving someone automatically makes them less dangerous. When we think this way, we usually also end up judging mom who stays. I guess I also consider that dad, especially since he's a father of a minor child for another 17 years, is going to continue to have access to the kids, and that worries me.
Exactly. So she can stay with him, but it's the kids I'm worried about. I'm accountable for the safety of those children, so if she chooses to stay with a guy who behaves that way, then it falls on me to put those children where they're safe.
I totally get it, Kim. You're right. It's your name written on these documents. You are responsible for their safety. But I want to say two things. First, as difficult as it may be to hear, the safest place for children exposed to domestic violence is with the non-offending parent. Or in this case, their mom. And second, knowing Ray's pattern of control plus Charlie's significant attachment to his mom, them separating would not guarantee safety.
All that makes sense, but sometimes what I hear from everyone else is make sure she has an injunction.
I know, and that's maybe how I can help you. Documenting her strengths and his pattern fit right in with the FFA and also give you the facts you need to bring to CLS or whomever to support your thinking. As for this mom, I will work with her if she'd like me to. I'm happy to help. I just think we want to find a way to focus on what else might help these kids be safe. I'm not sure that mom leaving dad is definitely going to do that for us.
How do you know?
Well, we know that they were separated before, and we know how dad responded. So let me ask you this. What's your biggest concern in this case? Your biggest fear?
That he'll kill her.
Okay. Well, that's not an unreasonable fear to have, given that he did attempt to strangle her and has threatened to kill her in the past if she left him. Are you worried he might kill the kids?
I don't know. He's never hit either one of the kids or made threats to harm them. But one of my coworkers last year had a case like this, and the mom left, and he hunted her down and killed her, the two kids and himself. We'd already closed the case because she left him and the kids were safe with mom. It was horrible.
I totally understand that you're afraid he'll kill her and might harm the kids. And even if he didn't harm the children physically, killing their mother is pretty much the worst thing he could do to them. Staying focused on understanding his pattern, seeing its impact on children, trying to reduce the danger he represents to the family is what makes for the best practice in these cases. And partnering with her, collaborating with her, really is what will help.
Okay.
Do you feel like you can talk to her about your fear of what he's going to do to her? Seems like she understands that he's dangerous. She took an injunction out last year. Do you think you can have a conversation with her about what she feels like would make the situation better, safer?
I did some of that already. She's a pretty good mom. She seems good with the kids and they're doing pretty well. She has a neighbor who helps, and she got that injunction. She talks to Charlie about the violence. She's had him in counseling in the past. She's working with the baby to address developmental delays.
Great. Did she say anything else about how she tries to manage Dad's control or violence?
She did say that she got an IUD without him knowing.
That sounds pretty brave. He never found out?
No. I think, though, he knows she went to a doctor and now keeps her insurance card from her so she can't go without him.
That's definitely controlling, but still brave of her to make that effort. Anything else?
I don't know. She just seems to be so passive. If it was me, I'd already be out of there. I don't know that I'd call it a strength, but, you know, when I talked to her, it just seemed like she just takes his word for everything.
What do you mean?
Well, she was saying she'd try to work and he didn't like it, so she just agreed with him. As a mother, she should just be home with the kids.
Can you think of any way in which her just agreeing with him or giving in to him might be an action she's actively taking to keep herself and the kids safe?
I mean, I guess if he's getting his way, maybe he's less likely to lose control.
And that might be something to follow up on. You know, ask her if, when she just agrees with him, if she feels like it makes her safer.
Okay.
Because it sounds like he's pretty in control of himself. And my guess is that when he's getting his way, he just feels his controlling behaviors are working as is. And maybe when he's not getting his way, he feels he needs to be more in control. So he's working harder to be controlling, like maybe hurting her.
I don't really know.
That's okay. I think it'll help you, though, to talk to mom about these things, because when we started talking, one of the concerns you had was that mom wasn't doing enough or was more passive. But if you can see her as active, you might have a better feeling about working with her.
And you'd consider her active even if she stays with this guy?
Yeah, definitely. I think survivors who stay with their partners for whatever reason work very hard to manage throughout the day. That's actually why I like the term survivor. It reminds me that she's doing something to survive each and every day. She's active. Just like I think survivors who leave have to be active every day, but it might look different.
Okay, well, I can talk to her.
Is Dad willing to participate in any service that would address his violence?
He's refusing for the most part. My supervisor wants me to staff the case with legal once we have all the information necessary to determine impending danger, assuming we determine that the children are unsafe with Dad. We're going to schedule on a day you are in the office so that you can sit in.
That's not a bad idea. I think because regardless of if they stay together, he'll have a role in the children's lives, at least his daughter's life. So it's important we try to work with him to change.
Rachel went out and talked to him and tried to explain that it's the right thing to do for his daughter.
That's really good. Was he receptive to that?
I'm not sure. He definitely talked a lot about how much he loved his daughter, but he wasn't that specific as to what he does with her. He just seemed like he was putting on a show or something.
It's still good that you tried. We know there's a better chance he'll change his behavior because it's something he values. And whether he really values his daughter or values the image of being a great father, it still might be a good motivator to keep pushing with him. Well, sounds like it's a great opportunity to keep pushing him to talk about making changes for his kids.
Yeah, we will do that. And you're going to talk to Mom?
Yes, I will call her. And if it's helpful, we can talk about how I can be useful in supporting your documentation, both of her protective factors and your danger statement, or your narratives about the perpetrator's pattern of behaviors.
Yeah, okay. That would help.
Is there anything else I can do?
No, I don't think so.
Well, thanks. Thanks for coming in. You had a lot of really good information.